Warning. Uncharted planet detected. Scanning. Scanning. Warning. Life form detected. Life form identified. Paul Elliott of Zozer Games. Incoming transmission.
Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Traveller RPG Headquarters. You can find our Facebook group by searching our name in the Facebook search tool, or find a link in the video description below. Thanks for participating in our third annual Mayday Traveller Day event. It's a day we celebrate Traveller and all its additions and offshoots for all the fun times it's given us around the gaming table with friends and family. I'm your host, Frank Succardi, also known as CyborgPrime, and today I'm happy to introduce Mr. Paul Elliott of Zozer Games. Welcome, Paul.
Hi there, it's nice to speak to you.
How are things going?
All right, it's plodding along, we're coming out of lockdown over here in Britain, so things are looking up, the sun's out, it's great, really good.
Fantastic. So for folks, this is your second time joining us?
It is. You interviewed me last year. That seemed to go very well. Yeah.
Yes, we had a good time. So for those of our listeners who are meeting you for the first time, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How old are you? Where? How long have you been gaming? Where'd you grow up? Stuff like that.
Well, I'm 50-ish. So I started gaming for people around my age around about the early 80s. So I played all the games that were around at the time. That's Traveller, it's Dungeons & Dragons, it's Call of Cthulhu, it's Champions, that kind of thing. And it really did influence how I went on in life, really. I learned things there that influenced the degree I took at university and the course of what I would do the rest of my life, really. So it really has influenced me in a big way. So from going to university, I went on and did a lot of writing and historical writing. So for publishers, history books, mainly on the Roman Empire. Got into reenactment a lot as well after around sort of the year 2000. Continued writing history books, but also started writing role-playing games as well, which is not just a hobby, but now a business. So it's been very interesting. Role-playing games have been the thread throughout, though, from my life, I think.
A lot of people who got into gaming back in the day, or I think anybody who really gets into it and clicks with it, it ends up being a long-term part of their lives. Do you have a favorite sci-fi book or TV show or movie that really inspires you?
Yeah, well, when we started about 1982, we started role-playing with the Dungeons and Dragons. We quickly, because most of us were mainly science fiction buffs at the time, and we used to pass around science fiction novels. One would read one and pass it to somebody else, and we'd get them from a second-hand store and we'd pass them around. So that's where we were at. We were reading Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov, all this kind of stuff. And so when we found out Traveller existed, that's what we bought, and we sort of Dungeons and Dragons became a side issue, and that's the game that we really played. Initially, it was all Star Wars-y stuff because Star Wars was the really big thing. We were all absolutely crazy about it. So we twisted and bent Traveller, bit Star Wars. So it was all lasers, and it was all hyperspace jumps, and it was all there were robots everywhere, and it sort of we were squeezing Star Wars into Traveller. But really, as I watched a lot more films, and most of these from the 70s, my ideas of what Traveller were sort of changed quite quickly. And the seminal film obviously was probably Alien, and also Blade Runner. And then I thought, well, this fits Traveller really well. It seemed to be Traveller on the screen, and rather than squeeze Star Wars into Traveller, I thought, well, I'm just going to use the ready-made setting of Alien. I'm just going to copy everything from that film into my games, and our game changed and morphed quite quickly into that kind of dark and gritty game, which Traveller is really. The way the combat rules are laid out, the kind of skills you get, the age that the characters are. They're not 18-year-olds. They're all in their 30s and their 40s. They're just like the Nostromo crew. So that's what sort of changed us, and our game became more like that, and it's stuck with me ever since, really.
I think a lot of people found inspiration in those movies too. Alien's great movie. Blade Runner, great movie. I just watched the second one last night. It's pretty decent, a little long, but
It is, yeah. It is. Yeah,
so
oh,
go on.
I'm just thinking the other films I was watching at the time on because they're all on TV, and I'm thinking the 70s really for the films like Damnation Alley, there's Rollerball, Mega Man, Soylent Running. There's plenty of them in the 70s, and they're really these are science fiction films for adults. Really, it wasn't until Star Wars I think came out that science fiction became a like for children. All these films in the 70s, they were serious, they were dark, and they were um, they were adult films, and they all fed into this is a grown up game. Travel, we're going to get them into Travel, and Travel is a grown up game really. And so it became less cheesy and less space opera and more serious. I think our games as we went through the 80s. I think.
Good point. There are a lot of movies from the sci-fi movies like Dark Star and
I forgot. Yeah, it was Dark Star. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. What was that one where there has Farrah Fawcett and they're on a space station with the crazy scientist and his robot?
Oh, Saturn 3.
Yeah.
Saturn 3, yeah.
That
And
was a
there's
good one.
what's the one? Silent Running.
Yep, Silent Running. Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of stuff out there.
Yeah, those are all great and gritty movies. And so, do you have any other hobbies aside from gaming?
My degree I did in ancient history and archaeology, and so I started writing about Roman history and ancient history when I finished university. So I was a published author. But I became interested in sort of reconstruction, and I made my own sling out of leather, and I went out to the beach because I live near the beach, and was slinging stones. You know, David and Goliath style slinging. And I became really, really proficient at it. And I thought, well, what else can I make? What else can I do? So I made a Roman shield, you know, using all the accurate materials. And then I joined a Roman group that I heard about in York. And then that was it. Then I was a full-on Roman reenactor. So it's making, researching, it's a whole lot. And I wrote a few more books based on that. So one of my main hobbies is reenactment. So I have plenty of stuff for the Roman period. I've got stuff for the Iron Age period. I've got a whole set of equipment and stuff that I've created myself for the period of Stonehenge in Britain, the Stone Age. So that's my real love. Recently, last couple of years, it's been Victorian military. So me and a friend, we've got all the equipment for a Victorian officers from the sort of 1870s, 1880s, and we're enjoying building that equipment up to be able to show it to the public. Well, that's completely different from Traveller.
Yeah.
It's in a way, it's a version of role playing. It really is. It's the research. It's doing all the details, and it's getting the kit together and creating a persona, create a character in time and in place, and then your equipment and your kit all matches the person from that time and that place, really. So it's a form of role playing, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of crossover between Traveller and medievalist societies or ancient, Roman recreationists, historical, I guess, recreation societies. I think there's something to be said for like the putting your handcraft skills into building something out of leather or building something out of wood or metal.
Yeah. It's the hobby. It's the hobby aspect. People. It's the hobbyist. But also, when I sat around the campfire one night, I said to somebody asked me, "Well, what do you do at the weekend?" And I said, "Oh, I do this thing where you talk around a table and you play a game, and it's suspension of disbelief." And somebody said, "Oh, you're a role player." And I went, yeah. And oh, yeah, I am. And so's my brother. And somebody else said, yeah, I am too. What games do you play? And apparently, half of the group of the reenactors I was with, they all role played. So again, lots of crossover, and I had no idea. But yeah, there must be something in that. I think the alternative way of thinking, the suspension of disbelief, I think is important there. Yeah.
One of the things I used to try to recruit for our medievalist group, and I tell them people, it's like adult day camp. The medieval adult day camp where you go and like do crafts and you sing around the campfire and
Yeah. We describe it as sort of it's Boy Scouting with swords and beer. That's how we describe it.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So I've been asking people in the spirit of traveler to stat themselves. So what would you say your most people get? Well, you get a base of 3 background skills that you get from your history as a child before you go out traveling. You get more or less depending on your education modifier. But let's say you're just the average guy. What 3 background skills do you? They don't have to be traveler canon. They can be just skills that you make up.
Skills, yeah.
So what 0 level background skills would you say?
It's got to be one of them's got to be slinging, because no one can sling unless you really, really practice at it. And I'm okay at that. So slinging 0, which I think it might be a skill in Classic Traveller Supplement 4. It might be, or maybe bow weapons. I can't remember. So that is definitely a skill.
Okay.
I can't say writing. History probably.
Okay.
History, but I'm also I'm good at sort of leather work as well. I do a lot of leather work. So other than that, I don't know. I've done some archery, but I can't make any claim to be good at it. I'd say leather work. Yeah, I can make satchels and bags and shoes and things like that. So yeah, leather work 0.
All right.
Yeah, and slinging,
history and slinging. All right.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So you mentioned you went to university. What was your major?
It was. Oh, first of all, I went to a university to do a geology degree because I wanted to be a oil petroleum geologist. So I had my college A-levels and O-levels. I'd done geology, which is a really rare subject in British schools, but my school offered it, so I took it, and I absolutely loved everything about it, and I got A's in that. It was brilliant. But at university, it turned out there was a 2-hour maths lesson every week, which was that's my Achilles heel. So there's no way I could do that. I had to drop out. I went back to school and I talked to my tutor, and he said, "Well, I can put you through another A-level in 6 months." And so I did ancient history in 6 months instead of 2 years, and I sort of passed that, and then went straight on to do ancient history and archaeology at Cardiff University in Wales, and that was fantastic. That was really, really good. It was just, I'd read a lot of the books that I was supposed to read already. I had a huge library of ancient history books, Roman history particularly. Absolutely loved it. So that was my degree, and role played all the way through as well, by the way.
All right. Let's say that you had not been accepted to university. Let's say you'd been drafted by the military. Which military service do you think you would have been filtered into?
Oh, that's good. The RAF, definitely. That's the only one I would have gone for if I had a choice.
What's the appeal?
Well, before Star Wars came out, really, I was a massive aviation fan. Well, even after Star Wars. So aircraft, even now, absolutely love airplanes, jets. Me and my uncles used to go all across the country to airports, air shows, everything. I knew everything about airplanes, aircraft. And I wanted to be anything. I didn't care what it was. If I was, I don't know, an ammunition fitter or air traffic controller, anything to do with airplanes in the RAF, that's what I wanted. But no, I went to university instead. That's probably a good thing, I think. Yeah.
What would you guess your personal stats are?
Now, are you getting personal? You are getting personal.
I am getting personal. Are you an average Joe, 7 across the board, or are you kind of dumb but educated, or?
No, I would social standing. Well, that's well, let's just say strength, dexterity, endurance. Let's put that. I'd say because I'm skinny as hell. So I'd be something like 5'8", 5'8", so say that. And then intelligence. Well, no one likes to brag about intelligence, so I'd say that's an 8. And then I wonder what an honors degree is. What would that be? Maybe an A or a B. I don't know.
Okay.
And then social standing, maybe a 7. I think nothing too grand there, I don't think. Yeah, and then 52 years old, and what's that? About 8 terms, something like that. Yeah, nothing spectacular, I can assure you.
All right, cool. So, what what got you into RPG gaming originally? What was the first game you mentioned? The first game you played was D&D, but what got you into that? Like, how did you find out about it? What was your early experiences with gaming?
It's one of those things where one person that you know is a role player. You find out one boy in your class has a role playing game, and it's one of those things where you don't buy it yourself. Well, from my experience of talking to other people, I think it's quite rare that people see a game in a shop, buy the game, and think role playing, and they read through how to role play, and then they get a group together. I think the most common thing to happen is people learn by experience, and they come into contact with role playing games by experience. So we had a friend, and he had a game, and he said, "Oh yeah, you can play a game." So he came round to my friend's house, and we all met up, and we played this new game, and it was like mind blowing. It really was. And that was basic Dungeons and Dragons, and it was with the Keep on the Borderlands, the scenario you got with the module you got with the game. And he left before it was finished, which really irked us, and we thought we'll play again. One day we'll finish it off, and we never did. And we always imagined, that I think leaving it on such a cliffhanger, that's the real thing that sort of caught our imagination. We thought, well, we've got to get a game ourselves. We've got to carry on, because we didn't see this guy very often. Our friend Lee, and we saw him at school, but then he moved schools, so we didn't see him very often. So we've got to get a game ourselves. So we looked around, and we found out there was one friend bought Traveller, the other friend bought RuneQuest, and eventually we tried them both, and it was Traveller that won out amongst all of them.
So what was it that drew you to the hobby? The unique style of gaming. Do you have a favorite?
It was just the way that you could live out all the films that we'd seen and the books that we'd read. We could actually get in there and do it ourselves. Really, I think that's what it was. It wasn't just you just absorb it, you consume it, you do it yourself. It's not up to anybody else anymore. You've got the toolkit. You can go and you can take bits and pieces from the things you like. You create something completely different. And all my school friends played, and we all got together. We played Traveller and Call of Cthulhu. We carried on playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which was probably my least favourite, just because of the amount of rules that ended up being used in that. And we played right through up to when we all went to university, really.
And did you have a favorite race and character class for D&D?
D&D, thieves, always thieves. Because they didn't have to be big and strong. So like me, I'm quite skinny, not very muscular. That was the character for me, really, the thief. So he didn't have to fight. He didn't have to be huge and have all the armor. He could sneak around, be tricky. So the thief was me. Yeah.
So
I was always a thief.
Before you came into Traveller, were you mainly like a player or a GM, or did you do a little bit of both in your Call of Cthulhu and D&D games?
We did it all. So one person refereed D&D, and we all played. And I refereed Traveller with another friend. He used to referee, and then I used to referee, and he used to referee. So we'd do it like that. We were the science fiction guys. So just the two of us, yeah, with flip. But I enjoyed both. I enjoy creating background and settings and plot and incidents. But I also love just having the one character and being able to explore. I absolutely love just exploring and going around and into different rooms and pressing buttons and exploring somebody else's world. That for me is the pinnacle of role playing. For me, it's the exploration side. I know people get different things out of it, don't they? Some like the intricate plots and the backstory, but that for me, it's all about you being there, exploring. It's an extension of yourself, like an avatar, and that's the thing for me. Even if nothing particularly happens a lot, if I go exploring, I will be happy. When we did Call of Cthulhu, people were saying to me, the other players said, "Don't go down that corridor. Don't go. We know what's bound. Don't go." I said, but I'm here. Well, I'm just going to go and explore. What's the point in role playing? I just want to go down the corridor, have my character experience whatever's down there. I don't care what happens to him.
So So would you say the exploration aspect is one of your favorite aspects
Yeah,
of
definitely.
Traveller?
It is. I think it's the world hopping, and there's a new world, and then the cities, and it's part world building for me, part exploration. If I'm refereeing, it's the world building, and if I'm playing, it's the exploration of somebody else's world. I think that's what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, the latest book I've written, the Explorers book. It's something about sort of five or six people in a starship in an unknown star system on an unknown world, no help, just cargo hold full of equipment, and then you've just got to get down there. You see what happens, and you explore, and you find things out. And any problems you have, it's up to you. And to me, that's the ultimate part of role playing. But like I said, other people get different things out of role playing.
Sure.
But that's my aspect. That's what gets me really, really excited, I think.
So I'm going to guess that your favorite Traveller career is Scout.
Yeah. How did you guess that? Yeah. Well, again, he's a bit like the thief, the Scout, isn't he? He's not. He doesn't have to be loaded down with weapons and things like that. He's got the pilot skills, so he can get away, and he's got jack of all trades. So to me, they're the sort of the Traveller version of the thief, in my opinion. I don't know if everyone agrees with that.
All right. Do you have an all-time favorite story about something that happened in a Traveller game?
You cut me up there. You'll have to come back to me on that one.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Or if it pops up into your brain later, let me know. But a lot of folks have a oh shit, there I was, kind of story. And let's say you're at a gaming store and you see some new players that just bought a Traveller set, and you have some brand new players and some brand new referees. What advice would you give to a brand new Traveller player?
Well, Traveller's a different game to most of the games, and I think that's the first thing I would tell them. It's a different game. The first thing is it's a dangerous game. Dangerous character creation equips you with various skills and characteristics, but it's going to be dangerous. Combat's dangerous. Space is dangerous. You're not going to be expected to survive endless amounts of scenarios. Something at some point is going to get you, and that's the attraction of Traveller. It's a dangerous game. You've got to be careful. You've got to live by your wits, because you step out of into the corridor, get shot by the rifle. The chances are you're gonna go down, and you may die. So it's not the sort of I've got a bucket load of hit points and I can just keep going, and without any levels or any experience system. You are what you create, and your character is going to be what you make of it as well. Your character is your decisions and your experiences in the game, rather than what's on my character sheet. And I think that's the thing I would try and emphasize really about Traveller.
And then, what kind of advice would you give to the brand new Traveller referee?
The referee, try not to kill them all straight away. I would say don't give up on the random character creation system too easily. I think a lot of people they try it and they hate it because we're going to be this. I want to be a space marine that does this and this and this, and then they roll the dice and they end up being an army private who was mustered out at age 22 and has only got 2 skills or something like that. And it's like I don't want to play this character, and that's not the aim of the game. The aim of the game is, from my experience with the exploration, but having an avatar, being in the world, is to have a character in the world, to be there, to have eyes and ears in the world. And the skills, they're great, but they don't define your character particularly. So take the character creation system as it is, and try a few characters. Even if you give players 3 chances to create a character, and they choose their favorite of the 3, something like that, because they create the character creation system of Traveller is absolutely fantastic. There's a reason why it's barely changed in sort of 40 years. It creates interesting characters that you look at and you think, why has he got that skill? That's good, but it meshes with that. But his characteristics, that's unusual. Why is that? And you build a character from looking at characteristics and the skills, and then it makes you, well, who is he? Why? And so yeah, that the character creation system I think gets a lot of stick, but I think it's Traveller's greatest virtue, really.
I really like what Mongoose did with the life events to kind of give it more of a story.
Yeah, the life events and the mishaps when you fail your survival roll. It's not like dead.
Right.
It's, well, something interesting's happened to you, and off you go. Yeah, that's true. It's because it was always in there, but you had to do that yourself, really. I mean, in classic Traveller, there was that example character, Alexander Jameson, the captain, and there was a walkthrough of how to create the character, and there were, well, he's failed his survival roll he's made his survival roll by 1 point. This means this, and he's failed his promotion point. His promotion was twice in a row. What does this mean? But yeah, with Mongoose Traveller, things became a bit more easier for the players to understand when you had life events and mishaps and things like this, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I really like what they did with it. So if you had some people coming into Traveller or Cepheus Engine, what do you think is the basic starter kit that they should have?
Yeah, well, see, I'm gonna do this. My sister has role played with me a few times over the years, mainly sort of 10, 20 years ago, and we did horror games. And this summer I'm going to be getting back into role playing with her and a family, and we're going to be doing some hostile role playing, some Cepheus Engine role playing. And I've been thinking about how to unleash this system on them, really. And I think the main thing would be we've got Cepheus Engine. I've got my hostile setting rules, and I think we're going to have pre-generated characters for the first time. I think throwing somebody into the mini game of character creation when they've not played before is daunting, complicated, and confusing, I think. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have character sheets, pre-generated characters and character sheets, and that will be it, really. We're just going to keep it clean and simple.
Sounds like a good idea. I found also that giving people starter pre-rolled characters, usually, like if I have 4 players, I'll generate 2 pilots, 2 doctors, 2 whatever, and then just let them pick whichever one they like best.
Yeah, you always have a few extras, and then you can sort of pass them around and choose the favourites. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
Good idea. All right. Now you see the players at this gaming store they got the catalog, the equipment catalog out. They're trying to figure out, what do I need for what does my Traveller need? Should I buy guns? Should I buy what 3 items would you recommend as essential starter gear in their backpack?
Yeah. Armor.
Armor, okay.
Bulletproof armor.
Okay.
A hand computer, probably.
Okay.
It depends on your version, I suppose, but
you can pick it. You can mix and match. Can match up.
Yeah. I always find a knife very handy from reenactment purposes. Anyway, a knife.
Okay.
Is a multi-tool, really. So a knife, it can get through most lore levels as well, I think.
Okay.
A knife, body armor, and only just ballistic armor.
Okay.
And what else? Did I say hand computer?
And a hand computer. Okay.
If the tech level allows, yeah.
All right, that's good. Those are all good gears, good starter gear. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in Cepheus Engine.
Well, I used to write for, when the Mongoose Traveller version came out. I was a big fan straight away, because it didn't change too much from the old classic Traveller. It didn't go full on with the Mega Traveller. It seemed to take a slight step back, and it sort of really appealed to me. And the book that came out was comprehensive. It had everything in there. There was little need to buy any more books. You could play the whole game just with the one book.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the license as well, and that was key, because it meant that I could write for Traveller. So I did write a couple of things. I created some planets, and I sold those on Drive-Thru RPG.
Under the Traveller's Aid Society, or under the TAS license or whatever, or?
No, that didn't exist then. It was a Traveller license.
Oh, okay.
So they were written for the Mongoose Traveller rules. I sort of did 4 of those, and then I don't know what made me do it, but I wrote a 1950s UFO role-playing game. using the Mongoose Traveller rules and the Traveller license. So in essence, you were 1950s Air Force pilots who were intercepting and shooting down invading UFOs, and it was all historically based in the mid to late 50s. And when you weren't flying the jets, you were on the ground investigating incidences of alien invasion. So it was very much like there was a TV series in the 60s called, I can't remember, was it Invasion? I don't know. Can't remember. There was a man who'd seen a UFO sighting, and he went all around trying to uncover these aliens who were infiltrating Earth at the time. So it was all based on that. It was very weird, but I don't know.
What was that show from the UFO? I think it was just called.
No, not UFO. UFO was a British one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was called it might have been called Invasion. Invaders, that was it. My wife just shouted it to me. Invaders, that was it. Yeah. The aliens were infiltrating humans and taking over the bodies, and had a network across America and the world, and they were being resupplied by UFOs. So that was in this game. That happens, and then you during the day you go out and you intercept these UFOs and shoot them down, and yeah, it's great fun. That was It sold brilliantly, but it's a lovely little game. That it was called Attack Squadron Roswell, based in New Mexico.
Hey, just 4 hours away from where I'm sitting right now.
Right, yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah.
That was a weird one. But then when the license lapsed, they took the license down basically. Jason Kemp was a role player. He took the license that was available, and he created Cepheus Engine from those Mongoose Traveller rules. And so I thought, well, this is fantastic. This is a way to carry on what I'd only just started, really. I can carry on writing for Traveller, as it were, but under a slightly different name, Cepheus Engine. So that's how I got involved with Cepheus Engine, just purely because I just started writing for Mongoose Traveller, and then the Traveller license was
changed.
Was stopped. Yeah, it was changed.
Right. Tell us about the types of things other than your alien invasion product that you produce over there at Zozer.
The Attack Squadron Roswell, that one there.
Mm-hmm. Well, aside from that, what else do you produce over at Zozer?
What I decided to do was to build on all the games that I'd played in the past, all the Traveller games. And what I want to do is Traveller and all and Alien and Blade Runner, Silent Running, all those films, Outland, they seem to mesh really well, but it's not really explicit. So I thought what I wanted to do for years and years and years is to rewrite the rules to really fit that setting. So I used Cepheus Engine straight away, really, to create that setting where all those kinds of films could exist. And I sort of didn't copy any license. I didn't infringe any licenses in any way. So I didn't copy companies or aliens or anything like that. What I did is I just thought, well, what makes those films interesting and exciting to watch, and take that and put that in a game setting, which we called Hostile, and where it's a universe where everything is dangerous. All the worlds are dangerous. Even the garden worlds are dangerous. There's something. There's a glitch to every world. It might seem nice, but it's not. So, and the world, the setting is it's not. There are no tourist planets or vacation planets. There are no passenger liners. It's a place where people go out there to work. It's an outland alien world of oil rigs and manufacturing and refineries, of exploitation and logging companies, trying to feed the masses of Earth. And it became quite a dark, brutal setting. And it just kept adding to it, and it's turned into quite a realistic sort of setting, full of opportunity and adventures and things.
I like the idea of there being the hidden danger to everything. I'm a big fan of Outer Limits, and like the new Outer Limits especially. I like twists of things, unexpected ending, or we've been rooting for the alien all along, and the humans are the real bad guys, or whatever.
Well, the thing with Traveller is it's easy to just set. It's just a world like Earth. It's a garden world. It's the Star Trek thing of, well, there's trees and there's lakes and there's the forests and there's the mountains, but it looks just like Earth and it feels just like Earth and everyone can breathe everything, and you go from world to world to world to world. It's so easy to fall into that trap of like it's just like America now or Britain now. It's so this way it may appear Earth-like, but the winters are terrifying, or it may appear like Earth, but there's a 1 month eclipse every 10 years and it's just about to come up, or there's always
or something generates a toxic cloud that comes across this area,
yeah
that you didn't know about.
The colonists have to deal with that. These are colonists spread out, and they're there to dig up the minerals and to grow the crops and to send it all back to Earth, and they have to deal with all these problems all the time. I think Larry Niven, in his Known Space series, I think they had robot ships going out to discover all these planets, the Ramscoop scout ships, all robotic, and they all came back and said this planet's habitable, this planet's habitable, this planet's habitable. So they sent out these huge colony ships to colonize them all, and each one was habitable in one area or for a certain amount of time, but each one had a terrifying twist to it that made it really difficult to live on. And I never forgot that, and I thought I've got to get that into this game, where life's harsh, and in space it really is. It's not easy.
I think they played that out a little bit in that movie Interstellar.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It seems habitable, but no, there's a massive tidal wave created by a supermassive black hole coming over.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, how long have you been producing content? When did you start Zozer Game? Where did the name Zozer come from?
Well, Zozer, it's in the years before when the internet first got started. It's like, right, I'm going to have a email. So, email, your name not available. Another name not available. A Greek god name not available. I was sat there for 20 minutes trying to think of a email name, and I've got an old 1910 book on Egyptian history, and there was this there's a god, there's a pharaoh called Zozer, and in there they call it Zozer with Zozer. So
okay.
No one's going to know that one. No one's going to know this obscure spelling. So I wrote that in, and that was okay. I mean, you can tell it works because if you type in Zozer Games, that's all you're going to get is Zozer Games, nothing else.
Oh, good.
Which is it proved to be quite a good name, really.
Yeah, that's a great name. Lends to brand identification that can't be mistaken.
Yeah.
So how many titles? Well, go on.
Well, I think we got started in 2012 maybe with Drive-Thru. When I discovered Drive-Thru, I thought, this is a place where I can put the things that I'm selling. I did write a lot of games before then and put them on the internet for free. In the 90s, I was writing a lot of role-playing games with some friends who I worked with, and I would write a game, just a couple of sheets of paper, would write a game, and it'd be set on an alien planet or something, and we'd play it, and then we'd forget about it. And then he would come, one of my friends would come the next week, and he would have it's Earth, modern day, alien invasion, everyone's dead except you kind of game. And then the next week would be fishermen on a fishing vessel, and would pull up something horrible from the sea. And each time it was a different character creation system, a different set of rules, all using 2D6. And we used to create these games all the time. So I got a good grounding in how to create a game and a setting. And so I ended up writing quite a few role-playing games throughout the 90s. I did a Roman one called Zenobia, and then I wrote a cyberpunk one called Zaibatsu. And so these were on the internet. As soon as I could get on the internet, I put all these up. And I used to write loads and loads of things on there. But Drive-Thru gave me the outlet to make it more professional and to do more artwork and covers and proofreading and really get into it and treat it more seriously and use customer feedback to improve or to change things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first one was a Roman game that I produced called 43 AD, Roman legionaries in Britain. And things, it's a dark land there are local demons in every forest and lake and mountain. The locals are scared of them, and you need to be scared of them too. So that was the first one. Then I did the work for Traveller as well, and I kept adding to that as well. The hostile has been the big thing, But I also I write other things as well. Cyberpunk games. I've written a game on Vietnam, a Vietnam squad role playing game. All kinds of things, really. Yeah, whatever takes my fancy. And things that I've written before or in the distant past. And I thought, well, I can take that game idea, the concept that worked so well for a one night game, and expand it into something that a group of players may find really interesting to play.
How many titles do you think you've done? I mean, that sounds like you've been at it a while.
No, I think there are maybe 40, at least 40.
I paused 50. There for a minute because I was over on Drive-Thru trying to see if they say. Sometimes it says 50 title. Oh yes, 54 items of yours are listed there on Drive-Thru. Congratulations. Yeah. That's pretty prolific.
Just free. But yeah.
Where do you get these ideas to come up with this stuff? It's just something that hits your fancy, and you're like, wouldn't it be cool if this was a thing? And then you make it.
Yeah, often, yeah. But I do keep these. I have a note all the time. I have a notebook, and I write any ideas into the notebook. And often they're to do with the project I'm working on now. But often I'll get an idea from something I see. That's a good. I watch a documentary about something. I think that would make a really good role-playing game. That would be brilliant. Or I watch a horror film and I think, well, that'd be really good if it was set somewhere else with different characters. That'd be brilliant, really good. So I write these down in notebooks, and I have about one a year, so I must have 20 notebooks full of ideas and notes. And I'll often go back to those and exploit something in there and just go for it. I've got one. There's one I've never done, which is SAS. The SAS during World War II in the Sahara Desert, North Africa. I think they were given total autonomy. A group of SAS soldiers with their own kit, all customized to how they wanted it, out in the desert with some trucks, all camouflaged and all beefed up with weaponry and everything, out there on their own, raiding behind enemy lines. I thought that would make a really good, not just a war game or a skirmish game, but a really good role-playing game as well. That's something in my notebooks, but I've never had a chance to work on that really. All these different things turn along, all these ideas bubbling away. And one day I'll think, right, I've got nothing to do now. I'm going to work on that one.
Do you let the different projects, like, when I want to say, like, not percolate, but just like cook until they get to a certain level of of notes that you've added? Then you go, right, this is a thing that can be a thing now. Or do you go through and find notes that sound interesting, but there's not that many of them, but maybe you're more interested in it right now? How do you go about that creative process?
Well, if I have an interesting idea that I think this is going to be quite make a good game, what I end up doing is I have this thing I switch, and then my radar is only for that thing. So when I wrote a history book, the Egyptian army, all I would watch on TV is only history. Well, anything to do with Egypt at all, anything I would record and I'd watch. History books, I would buy some history books and would read those. And it's focusing my total awareness on that particular subject to sort of suck it all up and to find out what I need to find out, really. I mean, weirdly, with Hostile, one of the things that, as I was building up the idea, well, is it a viable option? I don't know. I'd watch every episode of Mighty Ships that I could. I don't know if you must get that. It's an American TV show in America.
It's about ginormous boats or ships.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it, but yeah, I'm familiar with it.
They talk about the ship, but it's about the crew, and they go on one voyage with the crew, the camera crew, and they follow the engineer and the problems he has, the first officer, what's happening, the loading problems, the fuel problems, the weather, and how they got to the detour, and that time's ticking away. And they build up a story based on a crew and a ship. And so I watched all of those because that's essentially what's happening in something like Alien with the Nostromo, hauling a refinery of ore across the galaxy. And I thought, well, that's going to be a template for the game. So I'd watch all these things, all these documentaries, and try and make notes and put them all down and think, what could I use and what would work and kind of thing. Yeah. It's a strange process. It works in different ways depending on the subject that I'm thinking about, really.
It sounds like research can be a fun aspect of the putting together the stuff.
It is. Yeah, especially when you're doing science fiction.
Yeah.
You end up researching the weirdest things, like what's the biggest size asteroid that could hit the planet Earth without breaking it apart. Something
Right.
like that. I need to know this. I need to know this fact. And when it does hit, what minerals will be at the bottom of that giant crater, and how deep would the crater be, and so you're online looking, doing all this scientific research. It's it's pretty cool, I would say.
Yeah, that is cool. I'd also I realized that Traveller is something that does that to the players too. It makes the players do research. Like my players wanted to make space booze, and so they would go to a low-tech world, buy some cheap fruit, and then put it in a still, and then figure out how much that they could make out of that. So they were calculating
cool.
like how big is a barrel, and how many liters are can you store in a barrel, and how much per liter is good whiskey, and stuff like that. They found different. Yeah, it was interesting. And then we all learned a bunch about how many liters are in a barrel, and that there's different sizes of barrels, and yeah, it's interesting.
It's real world problem solving. That's what that is, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you want it to be, you don't want to just pull a number out, and go, this stuff is worth $10,000 when it's really worth much more and much less.
Yeah.
At least not to
It
me.
feels more realistic like that when you know that it's all based on real numbers. And I try and base all my stuff on stuff that I've really researched down to. And I know that a lot of players will just play the game or read the books, and they'll just read through it. But if somebody decided to go and research that fact, or go deeper and deeper and deeper, hopefully they'll find out, it's based on something real. That's really cool. And hopefully, I have had emails from people saying, I just found this out, and I'm really amazed that that's in there. I thought that's one of those players who's gone and decided to research that fact to see if it's true. And I do put that work in there, and it does crop up in emails, messages that I do get, that that the realism, what's the word? Is it verisimilitude? Where
yes,
it's real. It feels real.
Right.
It really does feel real, and that's what I want from my setting. It feels really, really real, even though it's a bit of a retro setting, harking back to the early 80s and the 70s. It feels like those films that and a lot of the technology is from that period. So as long as it's accurate to that period, I can get away with it.
So when you put these titles together, are you a lone wolf, or do you have a team?
Oh no, it's just me. I know I do occasionally hire editors or a cover artist. I work with Ian Stead a lot, who is he's quite a prolific Cepheus Engine and Traveller artist for ships and maps and plans. I've collaborated a lot with him on not just on the science fiction aspect of hostile settings, but also with modern war, the modern infantry warfare version of Cepheus Engine. He's worked on a book called Trench Raids, which we did a World War One supplement for that book, because it's a subject he knows a hell of a lot about, and we're hoping to maybe do a Second World War version as well. So he's great to work with. I'm working with. I get a lot of people who contact me and with ideas, and we work together. I'm working at the moment with a guy called Sean Fisher, who's he's a quite prolific GURPS writer. We're working on the next Colony book, which again is something that he's done a huge amount of work on. So it's really nice to work with these people. But generally, I work on I don't tell anybody about the project. I keep it completely quiet until it's finished. I do a lot of the work myself, the layout myself, I work on the covers myself, and I spend time working all the pieces out without telling anybody or leaking it out. Because if I decide not to publish it in the end, or I decide it halfway through it doesn't work, then nobody knows, nobody's disappointed. I don't look like an idiot. So
that's a good point.
Keep it all quiet. Yeah.
Good advice.
Some games I've worked on them and on them and on them and on them. On the Modern War game, I worked on it for months, and then I can't do this anymore. It's such a huge book, and it's so complicated. It really is complicated, and the people who'll be buying this they'll be military veterans buying it, and people who know a lot about firearms who will be buying this. And so I left it. I just abandoned it for half a year, And then I went, but something happened, or I talked to somebody, and I went back to it, and I thought, well, I've got to finish it. I've written half the book. I've written like, I don't know, 30,000 words or something. I've got to finish it. But yeah, and I announced it quite early as well, so I had to sort of somehow finish it, and it ended up being brilliant. It's one of my favourite things I've ever written. Is Modern War. Really, really good. Very proud of that game. But halfway through, I threw in the towel. But yeah, I don't usually do that.
That's nice to step away from a project sometimes, especially if you're getting burned out or have mental block. That at least that works for me. I sometimes, if you see me around in the forums and stuff, you see me working on video games and maps and different kinds of things. It's because I like have a lot of projects I like to do, but they're all half baked, and like you say, sometimes you just get stuck and you need time. Your brain needs time to absorb that information about why you're having a block and come up with a solution, and you can't force it. You just got to let it. You just got to wait until it comes. So then I switch project to something else.
Yeah, I think having 2 or 3 things is a great idea, and you can just switch from one thing to another. I mean, I often work on. It sounds really strange. I often work on 3 books at once.
Mm-hmm.
I try and plan ahead what I would like to write. So I'm working on a book. I'm halfway through it, or almost finished. I have another book that I've begun. I've got the cover sorted. The intro. I know what the contents is. I maybe written the introduction, and I know what that's going to be about. And then I have an idea for another book after that. And so if I'm really stuck, I'll just forget it, and I'll go and research something for this other book, or I'll go research something for the other book. And so it's like going from one thing to another, just to refresh your mind and just try something different, really.
What's your favorite content to produce? Maps, modules, just the settings, or do you write fiction? Do you write like a story about your thing first, and then?
For me, it's got to be setting. It's setting. I love to do the world building, the detail of the world building. I would love to be able, like Michael Brown, who is incredible scenario writer for Cepheus Engine. He is so prolific, and I find that really hard. I find writing scenarios and adventure ideas really difficult. I can come up with a quick idea, a basic outline for an adventure, but it's the putting all the blocks in place that aren't too railroady, but are interesting enough to follow, and that a group of players aren't just going to destroy straight away. And I find that very, very difficult. I have written a couple of scenarios, the Hostile Universe. I wrote, there's the Pioneer Station and Hot Zone. But I said I don't write as many as I could do, because I find those really difficult. So it's setting and aspects of the setting that I find, and I get most enjoyment from, I think.
So tell us a little bit about your feature product right now. You just came out with Explorers, or?
Yeah. It's really, we wanted to work on this colony builder game where it's I started it. We're well through it, where you're given a budget as a player or a referee, and there's the planet. It's a water world or something, or it's a hell hole with acidic rain and no water, and you're going to build your colony. How are you going to power it? Where's the water source going to come from? How big is it going to be? Where's the food going to come from? Who's growing the food? And how many units of farming areas do you need? And you're going to build all that and make it work. So that's the meat of the book. So you could pick a colony world from the Hostile setting, with there's 5,000 people live there, and it's some kind of ice world. Okay, so let's build it. I mean, the referee could do this before a game, or a player could just do it as a solo activity. And then after that, you can either use it in a game, or there'll be rules afterwards, which I've still got yet to write, although I've got ideas for, on managing the colony. And then you can be the management team or the key NPCs of the colony. And this event happens, and this encounter happens, and this event happens, and these visitors arrive, and there's this weather phenomenon, and you've got to stumble through managing the colony and making sure that food is kept going, and that the medical bay can cope with casualties, and that you're exploring out across the world to find out in advance of what problems might be happening. So that's the game we want to play. But I thought, well, before that, I need to get a handle on people who find the planet and survey the planet, and how does that work? So that's what the book is of. That's just been brought out, Explorers, where you're a team of surveyors and explorers who go straight in without any help or backup. You're thrown into a world, and there are 36 world sort of templates in there. Really, you can pick. The referee can pick one, and it tells you what the problems are on that world, the range of them to choose from, and there's a range of resources on that world that colonists might find useful. And so the referee can feed these out to the players as they're exploring and doing their surveys. And there's a system in there. It's not just wandering around randomly. The players will have to complete certain tasks to find out what the planet was. And while they're doing that, they're going to find out some of the real nasty parts of the planet, the problems of the planet. And it could be predators or some weird weather phenomenon. It goes back to what we were saying before about each planet as a stick, each planet as a hook, not a hook, like a problem. And they're going to find that out as they go exploring, and then they're going to have to cope with that while still doing the survey and get out alive, really. And that's the meat of it. That's how it came about. But it's been great. I've never really seen a book that does that. We've got the World Tamer's Handbook and the World Builder's Handbook from Traveller, but they seem to do more of the, I don't know, it seems to be more of the solar system building rather than really getting down to, is this world habitable and what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it because, Traveller has like a colonist career, and so where's the colony rules? And here they are. You've made them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a great idea. What aspect of this Explorers project makes you most proud? Like, what are you? I mean, humbly proud. Humble brag.
It was coming up with 36 planetary ideas. That was the hard part. But it's full of gear. I've got some great art in there. The ATV is perfectly detailed. There's a deck plan of the all-terrain vehicle and all the specifications for it, and some wonderful artwork for it. There's the survey ship is done. It's a 300-ton survey ship for about 12 people. That's all deck planned, and there's some wonderful art for that. And then there are the modular bases that appear in, I think, several versions of Traveller, and they can be dropped down as a temporary base. They're all deck planned out. There's like multiple versions of those, and you can link them all together to make a small
habitat,
small station or a habitat, like an outpost, So that's all in there. And then there are these rules, and it's like, right, I need to create 36 world ideas that have got things to offer and some dangers for the players. And sitting there thinking, because I thought, well, I've used most of my favourite ideas, my best ideas, writing the hostile setting. They're all in there, but I've got to think of 36 more. So that was loads of research trying to find out things that could go wrong, things that happen on desert planets that could really cause you problems, things on a planet with an ammonium atmosphere. What could go wrong there? So 36 planets, loads of problems, and that was really hard. It took me weeks and weeks to come up with that list. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Wow.
So I didn't think I could do.
That sounds like a great source book. Tell us about some other popular titles in your product line.
Well, the Modern War is probably one of my best sellers, which is it's using the Cepheus Engine rules, and you play a infantry squad of a standard army, Russian, Israeli, American, and then there are a set of fictional wars that's set now, but we don't look back. We'll look at the next 5-10 years, and so there are fictional wars there that could happen in the next few years. Like a South Korean the invasion of Taiwan. There's a second Suez War, so that you're not recreating battles from the past, and you've got a clear conscience. You can go in without any prejudices of what should happen, what might have happened, what could happen. And play that, and that's been really, really popular, and it's full of weapons for Cepheus Engine. It's full of vehicles and tanks and armored personnel carriers. So that's been really, really popular for me. But the biggest seller of mine is the solo book, which allows a player to play Cepheus Engine or any real Traveller-based game on their own. And inside there are 4 mini games where you can create a whole group of characters. And then you can run them through either a Navy Star Patrol, or you can be surveyors and explorers, or you can be space merchants, free traders, or you can just be travellers moving from world to world, trying to pick up patrons on each world, using perhaps traveling on starliners or something. And it gives you the full rules where you're on your own, but you manage a team of characters, and you don't know what's going to happen when you take the mission. We use random rolls to find out what happens. So it's a new way of doing it, really, where first you roll the dice, then you look at the results and write what happened, rather than you make plans and this is what happens, and then roll dice to see if you hit or not. It sort of worked a little bit in reverse, that. But solo is by far the biggest seller of all, and I wonder if that's the demographic who are playing Traveller, which is slightly like myself, slightly older, and maybe I haven't got gaming groups anymore, but still love Traveller and still love Cepheus Engine, and want that gaming experience.
Right.
Love to do more with solo, but haven't as yet.
I've heard a lot of good things about it around on the forums. People talking about it, and that they enjoy
really?
it because they couldn't get a local group. This was before the pandemic, and since they're like, well, it doesn't bother me because I just play solo anyway.
All right. Cool.
So, Paul, tell me some other interesting tidbits about your business. You had a story about the Alien role-playing game.
Yeah, I got an email out of the blue from Free League, the Swedish role-playing company, and they said, "Would you be interested in doing some work for us? But we can't tell you what it's about." And so I had to make a decision. Okay, yes, yeah, I'll do that. I had no idea what it was. I guessed it was something to do with what I'd done. I had no idea what aspect, and it ended up being the Alien role-playing game. And the chief editor said, "We've seen Hostile, and we like the way you've sort of modelled that universe, how dark it is and things. We want you to do some chapters for the Alien role-playing game." So I spent a while doing that, a couple of years ago now, writing out, created a space station, Novgorod space station for them. I used the Traveller rules to make it, and then I deck planned it all and drew external views of it, and that was in the book. I did an alien refinery for them, planned it all out, sent that through. I did work on some of the character creation. I did all the encounters and the job lists at the back, how to run a career. That was all in there. And then they asked me to do some work on the marine book as well, which should be coming out soon, hopefully. And again, I did some setting locations for them for that, which was great. Again, lots of deck plans and lots of maps and things like that. So I was very, very pleased, and I took it as a massive, massive compliment. I was to work on the Alien role-playing game. I thought that's a bit of a testament to Hostile. It's good enough to be compared to the Alien role-playing game. So my name's in there, and the credits as an additional writer.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
No, really. I mean, that's like a lot of people's dream to someday I'm going to write something and then be noticed by the big guy who invites me to come do something for them. I mean, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I would have done it. They paid me, but paid by the word. But I would have done it for free. I didn't tell them that, but I would have done it for free. I don't know if they said, we can't pay you, but could you do some work on the chapters and do this and that? Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, just to get awesome. Your name in there and be part of the Alien role-playing game. And that was pretty cool. That is the highlight, I think, of my role-playing career.
That's great, man.
Is working on that. Yeah.
It's also a testament to your work and also to networking. I mean, people see something somewhere and then someone mentions it to someone else, and before you know it, it gets back to the
true, yeah.
It's cool. Yeah. All right, man, that's a great story. So,
really cool.
speaking of that, what have you been up to this past year? Do you normally, I guess in light of the pandemic, you haven't been doing any conventions or anything? You've just been chilling out and producing stuff?
I'm working in school as well. Me and my wife work in schools, so our schools, apparently, although they're supposed to be closed, they're still open for key workers. So I've been working in school throughout the year as normal. But I only work part-time, so I can write and I can work as well at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been business as normal for me, really, in that regard.
I see. And
I can't believe it's been a year. can't believe it's been a year since we talked last time, to be honest. It's been the quickest year of my life, I think.
Yeah, it goes by pretty fast.
Yeah, it really has.
They say as we get older, they'll go by even faster. No.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So now that hopefully the pandemic's gonna die down a bit, I just got my first vaccine jabs last Wednesday. All I got from it was a sore shoulder. Get plans for going out in public next year, hitting any conventions if things are open?
Get my vaccination tomorrow. That'd be great. I'm going to try. Like I said, I'm going to try and get my sister's family into role playing. We did a little bit. We had an experiment last year, but I think I really want to. I think my sister would be interested in the horror aspect. She's got a teenage son and her husband. They're all quite keen, I think, to have a go. So that's what I want to do. I want to get together, which we haven't been able to have the chance to get together for all year. So that will be fantastic. And I'll be reenacting again, which I really can't wait to do. To sit around a campfire, dressed as a Roman soldier, drinking beer and Roman food. That'll be great. I can't wait to do that.
Sounds fun. Great plans. So, how can people find your products? Do you have a website, an e-store of your own, or a social media page?
I've got a website. It's Paul Elliott Books. And on the Zozer Games are all on the Paul Elliott Books site. And on there, there's all my history books as well. The ones on Roman military history. I've written a book on Vietnam and the Egyptian military history as well. So the books are there. But there's also Zozer Games is on paulelliottbooks.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that they all link, all the products there link to RPG.
Okay.
And I have print products on Lulu rather than RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a formatting issue that I've never been able to resolve really. So everything is also on Lulu. So you type Zozer Games into Lulu, you should get all the print products. And everything that I publish is also a print product. And that's mainly so I can get a copy of it for my own shelf.
Right.
But,
yeah, cool. I published through Lulu too. My one hard copy book, which is a computer book. But I found it was easy to do, and as a first-time book author, it's pretty accessible.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And the other thing is of course Facebook, where we met.
Yes.
There are loads of great traveller Facebook groups. I'm on Facebook, but I don't have any so-called friends really, except for my relatives. All I go on Facebook for is traveller content, and there are so many great traveller groups, including yours. It's fantastic. So that's what I use it for.
Oh, thanks, man. Do you have an author page on?
We have a
Facebook?
Zozer Games page. So anything that gets released is on Facebook under Zozer Games. Every release is on there.
And thanks for joining and participating in my Facebook group. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. It's grown pretty big. We're at 1,600 people after 3 years.
That's really good.
And I'm
really
pretty happy with that. And everybody gets along, and there's no fighting. I've only had a few cross people that had to leave, and we're better off as a group for it. So, pretty happy.
Yeah, that's what I love about these traveller groups. These grown-ups seem to be on these groups, and they seem to be well mannered, and just you don't hear any politics, nothing like that. It's fantastic. It's a great way to get away from the realities of the world. Is to go on there, and it's just fun stuff. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I love it.
I like the ways people. I like to see what people are interested in and the things they post, like about the landings on Mars or black holes, or like just weird tidbits that the other users are into and contribute. I think put into the community as a contribution. It's interesting to me. It's a social thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, we've come to the end of our interview. Thanks for joining us for the third year, for our third year event, for your second time though.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Cool. Well, folks, I'm your host, Frank Succardi, also known as CyborgPrime, and I've been talking with Mr. Paul Elliott of Zozer Games. Tell us one more time where you can purchase your titles.
RPG sells all the Zozer Games books, including Hostile, and also Lulu.
All right, and then you had a Paul Elliott site as well.
PaulElliottBooks.com. Yeah, that's right.
Right, cool. I will put a link to all that stuff down in the description of this video. Paul, thanks so much for participating in our Mayday Traveller Day event.
It's been wonderful. Thanks very much.
And thank you, dear listener, for joining us today. That's all for now, travelers. Until next time, happy traveling.